Hello everybody and welcome to another Luke to Duke tutorial. Today we will be exploring how to make a cool dubstep bass sounding synth that sounds like this. Now I'm going to play you that synth as I used it in one of my songs. So check it out. As you can see, it sounds pretty jammin'. It's like a hard Dr. P / Rusko / whatever type dubstep bass. So let's go ahead and start working on that synth. You're going to want to open up a new Reason window. And the first thing you're going to do is to create a combinator just to keep everything nice and organized. And within that combinator, make sure you click in this little box. You're going to want to make a maelstrom because that's going to be the synth that we use. And make sure to initialize the patch so you don't have any default patches loaded up there. You have the nice clean maelstrom. It should sound like a sine wave. Perfect. All right, and now the waveform in the first oscillator, you want to select the trumpet waveform, which sounds really hilarious on its own. So you're probably wondering, Luke to Duke, how did you transform that weird sounding trumpet sound into the sick ass dubstep bass that you played me before? Well, I'm about to show you, so wait up. What you want to do is turn the motion down so that the synth doesn't go through the entire index. That's what it sounds like with the motion at 0 or -64. Sorry. If we leave the motion on, you'll see that it'll go through the index like this. But instead, we're going to turn the motion all the way down and select index number 43, which should sound like this. Perfect. Now move down to the shift, crank the shift up to 8. Octave, move the octave down to 3. And just make sure you max out the decay and sustain over here so that it doesn't mess with your sound. And that's all we're doing for the first oscillator. Now, for the next oscillator, we want to kind of put some bass into this synth sound. So we're going to go overhead and select the Sawtooth 16 waveform and shift the octave down to 1. So this should sound like, which just gives the synth a nice bassy tone, and also set the motion to -64 because we don't want the index to be moving around there. Also set the volume to 70, so it's a nice balance between the highs and the lows of the synth. Alright, next up we're going to route both of these synths to the shaper. So hit these two buttons there, make sure that the arrow is pointing straight to the shaper from oscillator A. And from oscillator B, it's going to route through filter B. And you're going to have to also click this button to route filter B to the shaper. Now for filter B, we're just going to have the frequency be at 127. Turn off this envelope because we don't need that. And turn the resonance up to 95. 97 is close enough. So right now it should sound like this, which we're actually going to turn filter A frequency all the way up to, which I'm just going to do because it sounds closer to the original synth. And now watch what happens. You're going to turn the shaper on and move the sine amount to 77. 78 is close enough. And it's going to sound like this now, which sounds super dope and much closer to the synth that I played. So the shaper is pretty key in this bass synth. Next up, we're going to just going to turn off the envelope in filter 8, and we're going to move over to the mods, the modulators, if you will. So for modulator A, set the curve to 0, it's up there, and the rate to 91. And we're just going to use this modulator to put a little bit of vibrato on the synth. So set the modulator A to pitch to 6. And what this does is it'll change the pitch of the synth a little bit. We don't want this to go too high because then it starts sounding weird. But 6 is a pretty cool effect. And now we're going to get the Womp sound out of this synthesizer. So we're going to move over to modulator B, select curve number 9, which should look like this. There we go. And you're going to activate sync and one shot. Now what one shot does is basically plays this curve one time as opposed to looping it. So now we're going to go to rate and move the rate to 1/8 notes. There we go. And we're just going to have this modulate the filters A and B. So crank that all the way down to 64. Now again, I'm just going to change the tempo to 140 so it's a dubstep tempo because we are syncing this modulator to the tempo. And now listen to what this sounds like. So what this is basically doing is just moving the filter like from 0 or a low value to a higher value every time that you're hitting the key because it's a one shot. But if you want this to repeat, then you can just turn off the one shot and you get this, which is like a cool dubstep wobble thing. Alright, now we're almost done here. All you have to do is add a little bit of reverb. The warm plate preset works just fine. Just make sure that you turn the dry wet down to 8. So you just get a little bit of reverb, you know, nothing too crazy, just to widen up the sound. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching. You have just created a sick dubstep synth. And tune in next time for the next tutorial. Luke to Duke out.